You probably like video games. I like video games. A lot of people like video games. Everybody loves winning. And I don't think you can say you don't without being called weird for it. I mean, who wouldn't want to win? But sometimes people get in the way of winning. And, well, there's a term for that. It's called a sweat. However, the term sweat has been thrown around a lot, and I kind of want to explain what a sweat is and, you know, stop people from saying that anybody who's better than you is a sweat. Imagine this. You've just gotten home from a long day of work or school or whatever you do, and you just really want to relax. So you hop on your favorite video game. 2 seconds. 2 seconds is all you get before immediately you're shot down. 2 seconds. That's all you had to react. That's how long you were alive in your favorite game. You're already stressed out, but this is outrageous. You're not mad that you lost. You're mad that you didn't even get to play the game before you were so quickly eradicated from existence. The word sweat escapes your mouth. It's very quiet at first, a slight mumble under your breath. Then you yell it. You literally scream the word from the top of your lungs. Why? Why do you yell like this? Because you're annoyed. You just wanted to play a casual match, and now someone has exhibited literal tournament level skill. To understand this better, we should go through the phases that lead up to a person becoming a sweat. The noob. This is the stage that everyone goes through when they play a game for the very first time. Or maybe you don't because you've played a game similar to it. Either way, usually you'll be a noob to a game if it's the first time you've ever played it. But if you're not, you'll usually just immediately skip to the second step. Though we're focusing on the first, which is obviously, like I said, the noob. The noob is the player who can't really aim, they can't really string together combos, they're still getting the game down packed. Maybe they can move straight, but they don't know the game's mobility well at all. They can't really aim, they barely have any kills. This stage usually lasts from the first match to the, I'd say, seventh match. During these matches, you don't really know what you're doing. You're still trying to figure the game's controls out. Maybe you have a few kills, but you're not that good at it. I mean, most of your kills, you probably just got lucky and shot someone who was already low, or maybe you were fighting another noob like yourself. Either way, eventually, you will, no matter how long or how little time it takes, you will eventually progress to the next stage unless you quit before. And why would you quit when you just start at the game? Well, the longer we get down this list, the more you'll see why. As a noob, you're still a goofy goober. You dance a lot. You use your emotes a lot. You're not really toxic. When you lose, you still just say GG, or maybe don't say anything at all. You might be a bit of a sore loser sometimes, but you're still a very good person. You probably don't play the game all that much since you're just getting into it. But, you're trying. On to the next stage. I mean, you're still not all that good at the game, but you at least try. I mean, you're better than your noob counterpart. You've learned a few combos. Maybe you can aim better. You can get kills on your own, and you get wins a little more often. Obviously, you're not that good, but you're good enough to keep getting kills and keep getting wins. You don't need the help of your teammates anymore. When your teammates die, you don't immediately panic. You still can manage wins. You manage to take down several people without needing to pick off the weaker ones. And if you're in a fighting game, uh, then, well, you can put together a combo. Obviously, they're not gonna be that good combos, but they're still combos. They still take away people's health and don't really give them that much of a chance to fight back while you're in a combo, which is literally what a combo is. But I mean, they're still combos you perform. You feel a little better about yourself, a little more confident. You still say GG at the end of every match, and you still dance a lot. But, you know, you focus more. You're better. This, hopefully, will not become a problem later. But you're still a very nice person. When you win, you're a nice person about it. You're very kind. You don't try to rub it in people's faces. You get excited when you win still because that's what people do. You might post it on YouTube, which is what people normally do, and you're pretty happy at this stage. Maybe you play the game a little more, but you're still not, you know, bad. I mean, you're bad, but you're not as bad. When you fight people, you don't immediately just die. I mean, not anymore. You can try to hold your own against a casual or advanced player, but you know, you're still just a newbie. Except you can survive more than a few seconds against anyone who's half competent. Your survival skills are definitely a lot more, you know, improved, but again, you're a newbie. On to the next one. Uh, the advanced or the casual. It these are two different things, but they're pretty close together. So I'll just call it the advanced a subcategory of the casual. But first, we'll start with the casual. As a casual, you're no longer just a newbie. You can pull off combos pretty cleanly. Obviously, you're no professional, but you're no longer just an old noob or newbie. You can hold your own in a fight. You don't really need your teammates as much as you used to. You're self reliant most of the time. Obviously, you prefer teams sometimes, but, well, do you really need them as much? No, not really. I mean, you're a lot better than you used to be. You're still a very goofy guy because, well, Obviously, you're still a casual, but you feel better knowing that you're no longer just someone that people can pick off. You actually put up a fight when pros come against you. Not your old pathetic running and hiding that you did as a newbie. No, you're actually finding them. Sometimes you even kill them. But usually you just survive a bit longer. This is enough to satisfy you, though. You win a lot more because you're a casual. You know, your skill is greatly improved. You probably even put a little more time into the game, but you still care about your life outside the game. You still try as hard at work and stuff. You probably still have a job, and you don't really care all that much about winning. As you remember, you're still a casual. Sometimes you might get a little upset when you lose, but you know it's not the end of the world. You just grab your buddies and get in another match and, you know, dap each other up over the mic, which technically you can't, but it's good to imagine you are. When you 1v1 your friends, you're silly. You dance, you laugh, and when you win, you still say GG. Maybe you say it a little less than you used to. Maybe you focus a little more on winning, but you're still casual. You still make sure that people feel appreciated when they try against you. You're not a mean individual at all. I mean, you might make a few jokes about someone's skill when you win every now and then, but you know, you make sure it's just joking. You're not that mean. Obviously, you're still a casual, but knowing that you've risen above your previous level fills you with a sense of confidence, as it always did. You watch your WL ratio, which used to be barely a number, slowly rise. Slowly, but surely. It's a little flame that gives you motivation. Except it's only part of your motivation. You just want to have fun with your friends. You know, this is just a hobby for you. You're a casual. So, you don't really care if you win or lose. You just care that the other person isn't a total jerk about it. You like pros, and you strive to be like them one day. And you also slowly get more and more irritated with the sweats. Obviously, everyone's upset about them, but you're particularly upset about them. They break your win streak, and instead of being nice about it, they laugh in your face. You strive to get better. You have to be. Just so you can prove them wrong. And so you keep training until you're advanced. Advanced is a subcategory of casual. They're better than casuals, but they're still casuals, sort of. Obviously, their skill level is somewhat beyond casual. They pull off better combos, they aim better, they get more kills, they win more. But they still have the attitude and actions of most casuals. It's just that they're only a tiny bit better. You're above average at this point. You're not just the average Joe. You want to beat sweats, and you keep training and training and training. Whenever you beat a sweat, you say GG, just to rub it in their face to show that you can have fun, even without being a sweat. And they yell at you, they get mad, they still call you a loser, but you won. How can you be a loser if you won? You want to show them that you can't just win, but you can dominate them. This escalates you to the next phase, which is after several matches of suffering, you finally become a pro. And the last story might not always be your case. Maybe you just became a pro because you naturally started getting better because of your playtime. But it likely is due to the fact that you were sick and tired of sweats. You're now on their level, and you want to show them in every way possible that you are superior. You fight sweats constantly, and you beat them. But you still go easy on the noobs, newbies, and casuals and advanced because you don't want to ruin their experience. You still say GG, but you say it less because you've become more detached. Your focus has become destroying sweats, showing them that you can be just as good or even better than them while still being capable of, well, having fun by just playing the game. You still don't always win because that's impossible, but, well, your odds are much higher than that of basically everyone else. You also still 1v1 with your friends. Whenever you beat them, you drop a quick GG, maybe a dance or two to lighten the mood, but you're no longer as personal as before. Or maybe you are. Not all pros are the same. Assuming that you were a pro through the natural route and not the obsession route, you'd still be just as goofy as before, except, well, you can beat sweats casually. You don't even have to sweat. You can just casually demolish someone without a warning, unless they're also a pro like you. And whether because you kept playing the game or whether it's because you fell deeper into your obsession, you become an expert. What is an expert? Well, an expert is essentially the same thing that went on with advanced. It's still a pro, but they're a little better. Or maybe they try a little harder. I don't know. Sometimes that's the case, sometimes it isn't. But some experts or pros may even leave tips for other people to get better. Sometimes they fall into the wrong hands, but we're not focusing on that now. You're a really good player. Your chances have risen even higher than some pros. And you're happy about that. You're very proud about that. Your wins, though, they stop feeling as rewarding because you've gotten better. They're so common now. And maybe you just play more casually and limit yourself to, try to savor that feeling again. But other times, you might just fall to the wrong side. And that's where the problems start to arise. You're now the obsessed. What happened to make you like this? Well, you fell to the wrong side. You see, when you realized you weren't getting the same feeling of euphoria you got that you had when you won your very first round back when you were a newbie, you thought that instead of trying to have funner, goofier moments and slack a little bit, you decided winning would become the only fun. You decided that instead of trying to have more heartfelt moments with your newfound skills, you would try to improve them even further. And, well, while you're not the total douchebag that sweats are just yet, you've shifted. People notice the way you act, the way you sort of die when you lose, the way your face shifts, or if they're online, they notice the tone in your voice. Maybe you start to see more zombie like. Maybe you start acting less friendly. You dance less. You say GG less. Maybe you haven't started saying easy yet, but maybe you have. You start searching up videos on how to get better at the game, even though you're already better. You have the illusion that you're bad at the game and that you need to get better, even though you're one of the best players at the game. Or maybe you're not the best player or close to the best player, but maybe you're still good at the game, but you think you're not. You keep trying to get better, but it won't work because you're already good. You just don't want to accept it yet. You want to win all the time. You pride yourself not on the fact that you're happy, but on the fact that you win. When you don't win, even once, you start to act up. Maybe you cry, maybe you yell, maybe you scream at the top of your lungs, but. Or maybe you're just annoyed. You still can accept that losing isn't the end of the world, but at the same time, you know it's the only thing that brings you joy, and you don't want to change your mind, even if that's technically not true. Slowly, you start abusing bugs. It's just skill, you tell yourself. It'll help me win, you keep telling yourself. And you know it's wrong, or maybe you don't. You've fallen in too far to care anymore. You start feeling more selfish. You tell newbies that they need to get better, or maybe you don't. You walk over them. You step on them. You make them feel insignificant, not by words just yet, but you play way too hard on them. You know that they're noobs. You know that they don't know how to play. Your friends notice that you've become more distant. When you lose their 1v1s, they notice how you go silent suddenly in the microphone. You stop talking as much. People tell you you need to calm down and that winning isn't everything. And you don't listen. Because, well, why would you? Winning is your only joy, your only passion. The game you once cared about is nothing more now but a trophy rack to you. If it's not full, if you're not perfect, then what are you at this point? You don't like the game, you like winning. There are modes specifically for you, but you choose to continue playing in casual matches because, well, you know that you need to keep everything perfect. Or maybe you do play ranked. And then you get mad. And so you decide to make it everyone else's problem. You could have turned back. You had so many chances. But you decided to be the jerk. You decided to be the problem. And, well, now you're even more of a problem than you ever were. Maybe you didn't notice how mean you were. And maybe you never will notice. But, well, either way, at this point, you either turn back or you go to the next phase. A lot of people at this point typically just go to the next phase. You're now a sweat. Or at least what should be the real definition of sweat, and not the version that people use when they're mad. Whatever shred of personality and love and goofiness you ever had is gone, replaced with a shell of arrogance that refuses to accept what it really is. I really hope you're proud of yourself and the monster you've become at this point, because you can go back at any time. You could have went back even before this happened, but you kept going in this one direction that you knew was never the right option. Or maybe you didn't. Maybe you let this arrogance cloud your judgment. Maybe it was there since the very beginning and you just never tried to hide it, and people tried to believe that the best of you was still there. You start lying about your wins. You start using alt accounts. You start switching accounts to act like you're on a lower level just specifically to catch newbies off guard in their matchmaking. You purposefully use alt accounts to get fake wins. They're undeserved, but you tell yourself they are. This is what I deserve. This is what I should be getting. I should get no less than this, you tell yourself. You know it's wrong, or again, maybe your judgment is really that clouded, but you've become even worse than what you used to be. And, well, when you were a noob, you didn't even think that was possible. That little shell that used to be so nice, so kind, is now just a bully who preys on people who can't fight back. Whenever you see a noob, you don't try to help them. Whenever you see a newbie, you don't try to help them. Whenever you see anyone, actually, you don't try to help them. You always say easy, even when you lose. You tell people that lose that they're cheating. They must be, because you're the best player, aren't you? That's what you tell yourself all the time. You have to be the best player, because if you're not, then you're just another nobody, and you cannot be a nobody. At least, not in your eyes. You think wins are everything, and, well, it's cost you your entire experience. Losing games used to be inconvenient to you. You didn't really like losing, you never did. And now it's gotten worse. Well, in the previous phase, you were merely annoyed by them. Maybe you threw a silent tantrum in your room. But now, it's gotten worse. And you would have never thought that was even possible. Now, to you, losing your win streak is just as bad, if not worse, than losing a family member. And obviously, it isn't that bad, but to you and your warped perception, it definitely is. When you lose, you rage. You don't say, I need to get better. You don't say, good game. You just simply rage. You take all your frustrations and insecurities out on the poor person on the other side of the screen. Maybe it was a newbie who got a little lucky. Maybe it was a pro who was sick of your arrogance. Either way, you lost, and now this is why people call you a sweat, or at least why they should call you a sweat. You've lost. You should admit, you should admit outright that you lost. This is the point where you should say good game and sync up for another match, or get off the game for a bit, or just friend the other person. But instead of admitting that they bested you, you demand a rematch. There's a rematch. You lose. You rage. You demand another. You keep doing this until eventually you get a lucky shot and win. Loser, you say. You keep bombarding them, saying that they're a loser, even though for 10 1v1s in a row, you lost. But this flies under your radar because you must be perfect. at least in your perception. You have to be perfect. And, well, after a while, you might slowly reset, or maybe you just get worse. Typically, you just get worse for a while. And remember, there's a difference between sweats and pros. Don't get them mixed up. You're not a pro, or maybe you are. Maybe you are actually good at the game, but either way, you've become a problem for a lot of players. Actual pros and experts hate your arrogance. Noobs cry in their room because they can't defeat you, and you always try to lurk around the corner. You made someone quit the game the other day. You tell yourself it's just because you're really good, and not at all because you're a bully and a total pain in the arse. That's what you keep telling yourself. Eventually, you slow down, and you become a pro again. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't get the chance to. Maybe you're just bullied off the internet and your account is banned. But well, either way, people will remember you for being this annoying. Anyway, that's what that part of the video over. Now that we've went over the metaphorical life cycle of this, we now need to consider why do people hate sweat so much, and how not to mistake them in pros. So, okay, what do most people call sweat? A lot of people have blatantly been throwing the term sweat around. Maybe you lose a match and you can't accept the loss. You can't accept that they're just better, so you call them a sweat. They weren't even being mean about it. I mean, they said GG and all. They even tried to give you advice on how to get better yourself, and you ignored it. You still called them a sweat. Maybe they were just a pro, or maybe you were a noob and they were a newbie, or a casual, and you just couldn't accept that, well, you lost. This mostly is due to the fact that a lot of screamers and YouTubers like to sling the word sweat around when they lose to make themselves seem better when they lose. I mean, what do you think is better for, your viewers to think? That you lost the game, or that you lost the game because someone was being a sweat? There's a difference between a sweat and a pro, and I just explained it. Don't mix them up. It's very rude. Actually, if you call people a sweat, you might just be a sweat yourself. Because if all you care about is losing and you can't take a loss without saying that someone is one of the most genuinely narcissistic groups of people in gaming, then aren't you a sweat too? I mean, at that point, you start fitting the definition yourself, even if you're not all that good. Sweats ruin the experience of gaming because not only are they better than you, but they make sure that you know it. And not in the pro way where you just lose and they say GG. No. When they lose, they insult you. They make you feel smaller because they're narcissists. And they want to believe that they're superior in every way. Whether they were always this bad of a person or whether they were driven into it because everyone else was acting in this way and they felt like they had to adapt, sweats ruin games because it starts slowly and it starts killing a game's population. It leads to unnecessary nerfs that can ruin characters for other people. Think how many times Two Time from Forsaken was nerfed because someone simply had a bad day as a killer and decided that they needed to make it everyone else's problem. Now two time is essentially unviable unless you're the most skilled person in the universe. Because you only have as much health as the average healer character. And, well, your stun has been nerfed into the ground. Characters that noobs used to learn become slowly more unviable until eventually the game gets one sided and meta. And then that gets nerfed. Because people can't accept losses. And sometimes it's because they met a particularly mean sweat, and so instead of realizing that the sweat was just good with that weapon and were a total jerk about it, they decide that the character needs to be nerfed, not that the player needs to be banned for being a total pain in the arse. Listen, because someone's better than you doesn't mean that the character automatically needs to be nerfed. It just means that the character has a high skill ceiling and you just didn't adapt to it in time. And because sweats can cause other people to, get frustrated and thus become sweats, this means that sweats can become a problem for a games community very, very quickly. Because, well, when one person becomes a sweat, it pushes other people to become better a lot quicker. And it actually isn't good because the once friendly game turns into a slur battleground where new players quit every single day because they can't go one match without being harassed for being worse than other players. And then when you finally do win, they act like you're a cheater just because you won. And then they demand a rematch, and they keep demanding that until they win. And then they keep trying to burrow into you and your insecurities and make you feel terrible. Sometimes they'll even insult your IRL appearance without ever knowing you. You know how many times I've been told I have a small pecker online without anyone actually knowing who I am? You don't even know how tall I am. For all you know, I could be like 7 feet tall with a 12-inch dong, if you know what I mean. Do not insult people's physical appearance without knowing what they look like. Because if they actually do look like that, well, now you've made them feel personally insulted. And you technically already are personally insulting them. But by describing them in real life, you're making it worse. For example, losing in a game and calling someone a fat no-life. If that person is actually fat and feels insecure about how their body looks, now you've just pushed that person to do drugs that make them skinnier. And now they're addicted to drugs. And now they're found in a car, foaming out the mouth, dead from suffocation because they overdosed on pills. Congratulations. You just ended a life because you couldn't accept that you lost. Are you happy now? And while, yes, this mostly only affects mentally fragile people, you'd be surprised how easily people become mentally fragile. I mean, a lot of people are mentally fragile, they just don't want to realize it. Do you look in the mirror and tell yourself that you're a fat bum with no life every day? If so, you're insecure. Do you constantly tell yourself that you need to gain weight because you're too skinny? If so, you're insecure. Do you tell yourself that maybe what's between your legs isn't long enough for your liking? You're insecure. Do you tell yourself you're not tall enough? You're insecure. And another thing is people like to assume age too. Sometimes they're accurate, other times it's just annoying. And I believe this is probably the best time. Oh well, never mind. I'll make that in another video because I want this to be a more general thing and not focused on my personal experiences. Either way, just don't be a jerk. People won't be a jerk to you, hopefully. And jerks aren't nice. Only call people a sweat when they're being actual jerks. Although it's better to just disengage and take a break from the game. Games are becoming more and more unplayable for people each day because it's, well, not very fun to tolerate what they do. A lot of people assume that you're just pathetic and bad at the game if you can't handle supposed sweats. And well, sometimes it is true. Well, yeah, well, generally it is true that uh people like to call people sweats for just being better at the game. There are actual sweats, and you should accept it and don't say it's just a skill issue. Remember, there's a difference between having a skill issue and just not wanting to deal with someone being a total arse about, being better than you on the casual difficulty while they're playing like they're in a freaking tournament. Either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. Oh my gosh, why is this a 30-minute ramble session?